Gururbrahma, Gururvishnu, Gururdevo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Asmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedyanaravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Navadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Namadeva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we are still in the discussion of the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, also known as the Antakarana. And we've had a beginning of a discussion of what is the ego, the ahankriti, the kinds of thinking that make this false I, this phony I, this chit chaya, this reflection of consciousness found in the intellect. So what verse are we on?
We're on number 105.
Vishayanam akulye sukhi dukhi viparyaye sukham dukham cha tad dharma sadanandasya tatmanaha. When the sense objects are conducive, the situation is happy. When they're non-conducive, it is miserable. Happiness and misery are therefore the dharmas of the ego and do not belong to the Atman, which is ever blissful.
Yes. This is one of my favorite verses. This reveals to us the mechanics of worldly happiness and worldly misery. So I have, as it were, a card file in my subconscious, my unconscious, based on the past of what I think is pleasant, good, virtuous, and joy-giving. A situation comes in my view, and I start bringing out the card file and seeing if it fits. Well, that card doesn't fit. Let's see, And if the situation is conducive, based on my past associations, the mind's happy. If it's non-conducive, I would have peace. And it is absolutely mechanical. That's all it is. And we dress it up with all sorts of romantic language and stuff like that. But that's all that happens when the situation is conducive. When the situation is non-conducive, the rest of the time. And our minds have not changed since we popped out of the mother's womb. All that's changed is the various conducive and non-conducive situations. That's it. They are the dharmas of the ego. Actually, they're the reactions of the mind. And then the ego says, I am happy, I am sad. Then what does the ego want to do about it? It does one of two things. If the situation is conducive, I want to hold on to it and repeat it. And if the situation is non-conducive, I want to change it. I either want to change the world or I want to change me. That's this world. What everybody's doing. Don't believe me. Don't believe Shankara. Look to your own direct experience. Any thoughts on this?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Seems like as one is on this path, and the longer one is on it, that more becomes conducive and less becomes like there's not as much triggering. There is more peace. Is that just the ego?
Well, ideally, what we find is the non-conducive response of the mind is what we call Vikshepa Shakti, the projecting power, the spriha, the longing, the kama, the craving, the vancha, the wanting. When I get some mature dispassion, the mind doesn't extrovert that way. But also, I don't jones after things like I used to.
Yeah.
So when you cook for Thanksgiving, did some of it come out good?
Yeah.
You're happy. But it's not the greatest thing in the whole world.
No, it
It's
doesn't matter.
And I think you were telling me that you burnt the dressing.
Yes.
Did it kill you?
No. And
But
once
then-
upon a time, it would have really bothered me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I would have been thinking about it over, and it was like, oh, well.
And when you first opened the restaurant and the place was packed on a Saturday night and you looked at the cash register receipts at the end of the evening, you,
Oh, yeah.
this is really
Happy.
great.
Oh, yeah.
But after a while, no, this is what we do on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you don't pay attention.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that useful?
Yes, it is.
Very good question. Anybody else have questions about this? And what it allows us to do is de-romanticize the world. course, for young people, the big one is, I've fallen in love. No, it's just a stupid ass conducive environment. The person smells right. It's really about all it is.
Jim,
Yes.
this is a teak. You
Hariom Matik.
Hurry on, Jim. You said this was like a mechanical response. Can you talk more about that? If it's mechanical, is just what you mean by that? It's become so repetitive that it's just become a learned habit, or there's something other differently mechanical
It's
about it?
mechanical in the sense there's virtually no freedom in it.
Okay.
And it's not that the objects are inherently joy giving and misery producing. Now, we're talking about food. So we just passed the American holiday of Thanksgiving. Some people like turkey. If you're a vegetarian, you think of the poor turkey and you go, bleh. So there's no inherent pleasure in a turkey. It's what I have brought to it. So what it allows us to do is not dress up our desires with all this romantic idealism and stuff like that.
Okay.
Does that make it a little clearer, Atik?
Yes. Yes. So instead, we dress up our ideas with, the mumukshikwa, the wanting to be free of this ideas, wanting to be free of this up and down and everything.
Well, we want to begin to see what's really going on. It's interesting. I was talking with a person who was raised an evangelical Christian and had their faith shattered because they had believed the right stuff and they had gone to church and lived a good life, and tragedy happened in their life. And they thought, well, we did all the right things. We were supposed to have a blessed life. And my response to them was, you have a misunderstanding of what a blessed life is. Nowhere does it say that bad things don't happen to good people. Who made that one up? I accept Jesus Christ and go to church. No bad things will happen to me. That's nonsense. What it gives us, this is the blessedness. You can match calamity with serenity. You can go through the ups and downs of life with a peace that's independent of the world. So when we speak of moksha, liberation, and mumukshapwa is the desire for liberation, we want to understand this is incredibly practical stuff. It's how do I maximize the quality of life right here, right now. And here Shankara is saying, if I understand the mechanics of worldly happiness and worldly misery, it's just the mind's habituated response to conducive and non-conducive environments. That's all it is. Does that make it a little clearer?
Yes, it does.
Good question. All right. Any more on this verse? Because it's an important one. Okay, next one.
Section 27. Infinite love of the self.
I'll take it.
Atmartha vena hi prayon. Sorry. Atmartha vena hi preyan. Vishayo na swata priyaha. Swata eva hi sarvesham. Atma priyatamo yataha. Tata atma sadanando. Nasya dukkham kadachana. Sense objects are pleasure giving only because of the self, which manifests through them and not independently. For the self is, by its very nature, the most beloved of all. The self, therefore, is ever blissful and can never suffer any grief or misery.
So I struggled with this verse a lot. So we say the self is Satchidananda. And we say that means pure existence, pure consciousness, and bliss, absolute. And the self is eternal and it's unchanging. And in a sense, we already have it. But I'm not blissful all the time. So obviously, what I think Ananda is not what it is. So we have to try to delve into a deeper understanding. And here Shankara has begun to introduce us to Vedanta's understanding of happiness itself, when something is priya, dear. So let me get my teaching aid here. Here, I can't find it. There it is. So this poor little Tibetan prayer stone, gets blamed for all sorts of stuff. So the prayer stone here is a stand-in for anything that I think is joy-giving. Some person who I love you. Some place. Oh, I want to go to the French Riviera. A thing. BMW. Or situation. Orange. So the first thing that happens is I determine what is priya. This is the word that Shankara used. Priya means something that's dear to me. It's actually a somewhat common Indian woman's name.
Yeah, or Priya.
Yeah, priya means dear. I wonder if we get the English word precious from the same root. I'll look that up. So, but I make it up. You may like boys, you may like girls, you may like tall people, you may like short people, like dark people, you may like blondes. You may want to be a celibate. You may want to be, what do the kids call it?
Polyamorous.
Polyamorous. I always think that's having sex with parents.
Might as well be. So I said it might as well be.
Anyway, so whatever it is, I determine what's dear to me. And based on the prior verse, it's all just the force of the past. It's what's familiar to me. For example, if you are the child of an alcoholic, you have a 50% chance of becoming one or marrying one. Why in God's name would someone marry an alcoholic? What's the answer?
That's what you know.
And you may not realize they're an alcoholic in the beginning. It's a personality type that's like mommy or daddy, to which we're attracted. And then 10 years down the road, oh my God. So frequently we prefer the familiar to the good. Part of what yoga is about is making the good familiar. But I determine what's priya. Now, the world is essentially neutral. It is not good, it is not bad. All the objects of the world created by the infinite have no affect at all. I superimpose it. So I determine what's priya. Now, once I have determined something is priya and I do not have it, then the phenomenon of craving is set up. I want, I want, I want. And the further away it is, and the more I want it, the more it hurts. True story. There was a young gal, and I was talking with her, and she was having a hard time. And there was this boy that she was really, really attracted to. And he wasn't, treating her the way she wants. And she was just suffering and suffering. And this is what she said: I know it must be love because it hurts so bad. Cray, cray. Cray, cray. Nuts. So, what do I do about that pain of longing? I get proximate to my object of desire. I buy it, I date it, get flowers for it, I build it, I earn it, I construct it, I go there. This is called moda, to become proximate to my object of desire. Then, when desire and object of desire finally become one, when I've been successful in acquiring the person, place, thing, or situation, oh yeah, pramoda, the point of pleasure. What's actually happened is at that moment, the mind has been freed from the tyranny of its longing. Most of us run around all day long with low-grade discontent and agitation. We don't even know it, but we sure know it when it's gone. Oh. In my ignorance, I attribute the joy-giving quality to the object. But what's actually happened is the mind has come home. And we call the self Ananda, bliss absolute. Perhaps a better way to frame it in language, it is the fountainhead of all joy. It is the wellspring of all happiness. Because when the mind comes home to the self, because the self is bliss absolute, the mind becomes blissful. That's what happens. So Shankara here says, actually, all I ever want in this world, a little bit of happiness, actually, that's a taste of my own self-nature. Everybody is seeking a kiss of the bliss of Brahma. What's going on? And they keep going after people, places, things, and situations, thinking that's where the happiness is. Such is the power of Maya, that seems pretty real. And all that ever happens, I long for something, Vikshepa Shakti, it hides. I get what I want if I'm lucky. The mind comes home. The suffering is it. So, as with so many of these verses, there is a practice that's implied. Watch your mind. Oh, your suffering. Students who've been around for a while have heard me share this. When I was in the ashram, as I began to practice this, my nickname for my mind was Mudha. Mudha means fool. There I am wanting again. And it's so repetitive. And it's so boring. Over and over and over again. For what? Just a little bit of juice. It's so boring. So we own our suffering, our dukkha, and we own our ananda. Pay attention to happiness. When an occasion arises where you're happy, notice this is a taste of myself. Now, it will vary in intensity and it will vary in duration, depending on how badly I wanted it and how completely it stopped my mind. It stopped that projecting power. There is a gradation of satisfactions. The Indians love to make lists and to classify things. So, physical things are more easy to acquire. The pleasure is very intense, but it's usually very short-lived. Food, sex, a massage, even things like a beautiful sunset, art, music. Emotional things are harder to achieve, but the satisfaction is a little more enduring. When you have a good friend, when you have a life partner that you deeply care about, children, these emotional connections can last longer. Subtlest are ideas. We can be devoted to an idea and get satisfaction for a lifetime. Maybe you are devoted to social justice. Maybe you are devoted to feeding people. I am. Brings me great joy. Now, what is the subtlest of all ideas, which are an object of desire? Who knows? Your idea of God. People can find joy for a lifetime loving God. But even that can be conditional. Oh dear, I sinned today. Maybe God doesn't love me. There's an image that I like to bring out in this discussion, if I can find it very quickly. Hanuman embracing Rama. This is one of the most famous images. Can you guys all see it?
Oh, yeah.
Hanuman is the monkey god. Can you see it?
Yeah.
And here's for the Zoom people. And Hanuman's the mind. And of course, Ram is the self. So, oops, it went away. This is where the mind belongs. This is where the mind ultimately finds satisfaction, is embracing or in the embrace of the self. In Gita, Krishna will say, everybody in all ways worships me. They just don't know it. Oh, I like to drive fast cars. How are you going to feel when you drive a fast car? Happy. That's Krishna. But you're like, oh, ice cream. How are you going to feel when you get ice cream? Happy. That's Krishna. Sex. How are you going to feel when you have great sex? Happy. That's Krishna. everybody is always worshiping the infinite. I determine what is Priya, dear to me. Then I get proximate to it. Bola. Then when I acquire the object of desire, pramoda, the point of pleasure, the longing ceases, and I get a taste of myself. The yogi says, why not dispense with the medium? All of these are a mediated experience of the bliss of the self. And the people, places, things, and conditions are all transient and not available all the time. Not only that, you've got to look your best and they cost money. Why not learn how to let the mind come home? The scriptures use phrases like Atma Ramana. Ramati means to revel. So my hero, Ramana Maharshi, Ramana means he who revels. To have a non-mediated, an immediate experience. Tasting the Brahmananda rasa. Rasa means juice, essence. Your own self-nature. The ancient Hebrews knew this too. There's a very famous psalm. Taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Same idea. Absolutely one of the most important ideas in yoga. Don't believe me. Don't believe Shankara. Do this experiment. Watch your mind. Notice what it feels like to want something you don't have. Yoga says there's no other suffering. Watch your mind when desire is fulfilled. For a moment, you're freed from the longing. The pleasure always tastes the same? Yes. I just get confused by the diversity of sensory experience. It's always just myself. If this is difficult to understand, don't worry about it. Put it on the shelf. This idea will come around again when we discuss the An and the Maya Kosha. Any thoughts before we move on? Next verse.
Yatsu shuktau nivarshaya atmanando nubhuyate shruti pratyakshameti hya anumanam cha jagrati. Scriptural declarations, direct experience, tradition, and inference clearly say that in deep sleep we experience the bliss of the Atman independent of sense objects.
So here Shankara says, you do not need a sense object in order to be blissful. And you prove it every night you have a deep sleep. You wake up in the morning and go, oh, I feel so good. I slept so soundly. Now, he doesn't talk about it, but there's a technical term called Vasanananda. I call it snooze alarm bliss. The alarm goes off. No, just another 10 minutes. So there's just enough mind there. You punch the pillow and roll over. Just so you've got enough mind there to consciously enjoy the state. You know the state I'm talking about? And then what happens? Oh, I've got that report to do at work. Oh, I've got to clean up that fight I had with so and so. Oh, I've got this housework to do. Oh, the plumber's gonna come. And then what happens to the bliss? It's like morning mist in the sun. It fades. But what that deep sleep, sushupta, proves to us is you must have a mind in order to be miserable. You do not need a mind in order to be blissful. Next verse.
Section 28, Maya pointed out.
There it is.
Avyaktanani Paramesha Shakti Ranadya Vidya Trigunatmika Para Karyanumeya Sudhiyaiva Maya Yaya Jagat Sarvam Idam Prasuyate. Nescience, Avidya or Maya, is also called the unmanifest, and is the power of the Lord. It is without beginning. It comprises of the three gunas and is superior to their effects. It is to be inferred only by one who has a clear intellect, free from the effects it produces. It is this avidya which projects the entire universe.
So, Maya is an inherent power of consciousness. Just like the mirror, the silver glass, has an inherent power to reflect an image. Just like when I bring the crystal ball out, it has an inherent power to have images appear in it. So also, consciousness has this Maya Shakti, whereby out of it, seemingly, is projected the world of name and form. Why? Just is. One etymology of Maya. Ma means not. That which is comprised of not. Nothing. what Maya has the power to do, it is by the Maya Shakti in the infinite that all the things and beings come into apparent existence. In the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, God is the divine other. He's the creator. And separate from him, out of nothing, he creates it, is the creation. And in the creation are creatures. Separate. Vedanta is not the same paradigm. Vedanta says the universe comes about sankalpena, by means of imagination. Easiest way to understand this is to go to the dream state. You are the God of your dream. The same process by which the infinite manifests the whole universe, you and I do microcosmically. We dream. So, what happens? First of all, I, the waker, go to bed. And then ignorance overcomes my mind, called deep sleep. I call it mini Maya. Then what happens? Ta-da! The dream world comes about. Dream people, dream objects, dream cause and effect, dream thoughts and feelings, conversations, etc. But what are all the people, places, and things in the dream made of? What is the material cause of it? My mind. Who did it? I did. I'm the efficient cause. What instrument did I use? My mind. Instrumental cause. Seen, experience, but nothing in the dream state ever touches me. The waker, I'm still there in my bed. And sometimes I even have a lucid dream when I know I'm dreaming while I'm dreaming. Who's had a lucid dream? Yeah. So out of the infinite comes this avyakta, which merely means the unmanifest. It's as if consciousness apparently forks into subject and the stuff, prakriti, nature, mind stuff, which all this is made. That avyaktaha, that unmanifest, we classify the various modes of it as the three gunas. Guna means like a quality. It's also a pun in Sanskrit. One definition of guna is rope. So we're bound by the qualities of mind. That's the joke. And they are tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas is the property of inactivity, of indolence, of just stasis, of dullness, illusion and delusion. Rajas is the principle of activity, where stuff happens. There's movement, where there's desire, where there's creativity. Sattva is clarity. It is non-activity, not to be confused with inactivity. Everything is clear, where knowing happens. All the things and beings of this world are some combination of the three worlds. Individually, we have times when minds are dull, or tamasa. Other times we're just filled with activity and desire. Of course, all our sufferings in rajas. Jealousy, envy, greed, competition. Sometimes we're still. Seeing the self as it is, seeing the world as it is. Now, Shankara says avidya, which literally means ignorance. Vid is the root, which is to know. So we get the word Veda too. Avidya means ignorance. We usually use the word avidya to refer to our personal experience of ignorance, my own spiritual ignorance, the non-apprehension of reality. We usually use the word Maya to refer to the universal ignorance from which the whole universe comes. It's only just a matter of technical language. And in some scriptures, they're practically interchangeable. So, we can only infer Maya from its effects, which is we look around and we see this amazing universe. I can infer ignorance, avidya, personally from its effects. What is the first effect of avidya? Who can tell me? The non-apprehension of my essential nature. And then immediately following is the misapprehension. I think I'm a person. I think I'm my body. All the stories that go along. So Just like in the dream state, I have a dream body, and that becomes a locus of perception. I peep out at the dream world from the dream body. And I have a dream ego. I, Jim, am running around in the dream. When I wake up, where does it all go? Poof. Yoga says, my experience that I'm a person in the waking state, peeping out of this body with ego identification. I'm Jim, when Mike. The world's out there. My thoughts and feelings are in here. That is the result of ignorance, avidya. Just like when I'm in the dream, to the dreamer, the dream seems as real as this does right now. So also, when I'm under the throes of spiritual ignorance, avidya, it all seems so very real. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
Sannapya bhayatmikano bhinnapya bhayatmikano sangapya nangapya bhayatmikano mahadbhutanirvachaniya rupa. It, Maya, is neither existent nor non-existent, nor both, neither same nor different, nor both, neither made up of parts nor whole, nor both. Most wonderful it is, and beyond description in words.
Yes. So, is Maya a thing? No. In that way, it's like darkness. So, if I have a light switch on the lamp, do I have to turn the darkness switch off before I turn the light switch on? No. But can we say darkness is? Well, kind of. Can't say that it isn't. I'm thinking of an arithmetic problem. Do you know what arithmetic problem I'm thinking of? You're ignorant. It's ancient. How long have you not known it? Beginningless. How many quarts of ignorance do you have? 20 plus 20 is equal to 40. Where did your ignorance go? Gone. Was it a thing? So we can't say it exists. Can't say it doesn't exist. Can't say it has parts. Can't say it doesn't have parts. The other one I like to compare it to. Back in the old-timey days when I was watching cartoons as a kid. I think it was a Bugs Bunny cartoon. It might have been a Roadrunner cartoon. But there was like a hole in the ground, like a manhole. And I think it was Bugs who just picked up the hole.
Yeah.
Remember that
Yeah.
cartoons like
Yeah.
that?
Mhm.
Can you pick up a hole in the ground? Is a hole is an absence of dirt. I have 10 holes inside the truck. Can't say that it is. Can't say that it isn't. But Shankara says what we can say is that it's wonderful. I've been, these algorithms on YouTube. I'm now getting all these astrophysics ones now, which I just love. All this James Webb telescope stuff. Mind-boggling. I watched one, I didn't get to, or saw it, I didn't get a chance to watch it. This guy was saying there might have been 2 big bangs. Whoa. Oh my God. Just, and then when you start getting into quantum physics, this string theory and membrane theory, this is way beyond me. There's really nothing here. But matter is because someone's looking at it. I mean, they're actually saying stuff like that. It's coming so close to the Vedanta. So it's wonderful. It's just wonderful. Maya. It's also very powerful. Because we can be here in satsang. Our minds get all tuned up. And all your troubles fall away. Reality is so clear. And then the veil of ignorance comes down sometime during the week. And it's so powerful. Then the world of Maya projection and the person and the world out there, it's giving me trouble, seems so real. It's like the dream at night, seems so real. Such as the awesome.
It's so interesting how it's like in class, everything you say, it's like, yes, it's so obvious. But it's like I can't remember it, with that clarity. It's so interesting.
Wendy, you are such a textbook yogi. They wrote a book about you 1,300 years ago. If you go back to the section before the qualifications of a fit student, Shankara says you need to be medha, which means having a keen memory.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean I can quote shlokas. That can be helpful. It means as I remember to apply the teaching at the moment in my life where it's efficacious. He wouldn't have mentioned it unless
it was difficult.
Yeah.
Right. If this were easy.
I mean, you are living out a textbook syndrome. And that gave me great comfort when I figured that out. I'm not uniquely stupid.
I'm not the only one. It's very
I'm
dim.
not uniquely stupid.
Jim, on the same lines, you know, when I am better rested and have more energy, I can remember these things more easily. But when I'm really like something really quote unquote bad happened or feeling really drained, it's harder for me to engage in this. That's part of the same essence.
Yes, again, we're back to our understanding of the gunas. When my mind is sattvic, I see more clearly. So one of the things we can look at as we have a whole section on the gunas is living a sattvic life will allow me to see more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do things that grossify my equipment, because the reason I can't see, I can't remember, is because tamas is having an effect in my life. And that's not just not getting enough sleep. It means my diet may be too heavy. I may be imbibing in things like drugs, alcohol that are tamasic. I may not be praying and meditating on a regular basis. May not be getting enough exercise. All of this helps maintain a sattvic mind. All right, next one.
Shuddha dvaya brahma vibodhanashya sarpa brahmorajju vekato yatha rajastam sattvam iti prasiddha gunastadiyah pratithai swakaryai. By realization of the pure non-dual Brahman, Maya can be destroyed, just as the illusion of the snake is removed by the discriminative knowledge of the rope. Its gunas are Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, distinguished by their respective functions.
So when we say Maya can be destroyed, that means my personal experience of ignorance is destroyed. It doesn't mean when Puneet gets realized, the universe crumbles for the rest of us. Doesn't mean that. So even though Maya is beginningless, ignorance is beginningless, it does have an end. What is the end of ignorance? Knowledge. How do I gain knowledge? I gain knowledge vicharena, by means of investigation. So here Shankara makes reference again to that classic Vedantic image of the snake and the rope. We've talked about it before. So how do I destroy the snake? I don't beat it up with a baseball bat. I investigate. Wait a minute. It looks like a snake, but what's really there? A rope. So also, right now it seems like I'm a person, that there's an entity called Jim or Mike or Wendy. And what Shankara says is, let's investigate what appears to be a person and see what we find. This is investigation into the self, Atma Vichara. Now, my ignorance is comprised of the three gunas. I already talked about them: tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas is the state of mind where I'm in ignorance, deluded, indolent, confused, no energy. Want to pull the covers over my head. Rajas, when I'm A-type personality, running around, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that. Soft when the mind is clear, still, content. In the sattvic mind, I see the world as it is. So we can say that yoga is moving the mind from tamas to rajas, from rajas to sattva, then giving up even the sattvic mind. Okay, what verse are we on for next week?
111.
Now, a little bit of housekeeping. We will have, I think it's 2 more lessons. I think our last lesson of the year is the 14th of December. Yes, the 14th of December. And then we will be off, and then we will not resume until the 11th of January. So we will have our 3-week holiday vacation. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all